Hey, another episode of Hearts of Update, where I go through some of the videos of my main channel that have not been released yet, talking about features and updates for Hoi 4 to make Hoi 4 a better game. The objective is to make Hoi 4 a better game, okay? It is not to overly critique or slander the work of Paradox, because to be fair, if it wasn't for Paradox, the game would not actually exist. Let's talk about the Sultanate of Aussa, which is this video. Hi, I'm Feedback Gaming, and this is Hearts of Iron 4, and I play games in unconventional ways. And probably the most unconventional is playing Hearts of Iron 4 as Ethiopia. Who does that, right? No, let's go one step further. What about playing as the Sultanate of Aussa? That's right, that little one. You know, on a historical game that just gets annexed by Italy without firing a single shot? Well, yes. This is the nation in question. And if you want to check out this video, I will link it below in the description. And depending on if you're watching this video right now, you'll have to become a member. But if you wait over time, it will be released to the public anyway. So if you want early access, this is the reason why I'm making this video, so you can have an opportunity to join the elite club. And I thought I'd just talk about that Let's Play that I made and why it was good, or not necessarily why it was bad, and things that maybe Paradox in the future can improve upon. I'll be honest with you, the end goal of this is fantastic. You can form basically Ethiopia, form the Horn in Africa, and basically have a really good foe against the Axis or the Allies, whatever you want to do. And the amount of power you can get out of militia based on stacking all the irregular bonuses. Can you see these here? Like attacking bonuses here. Then you get some additional ones in your focus tree. In fact, there's loads actually. There's one here as well. Improved irregular tactics. So at the end of the day, you end up with troops that are weak, but they have so many stats to them and cost so very little, you can mass produce them. The two issues you run into with Aussa is manpower is the first one. Until you get to core most of the Horn of Africa, you run into manpower issues, which forces most players to go down the communist path. In this one instance, I wanted to stick with the absolute monarchy to give myself a bit of a challenge. But do you know what alternatively I did to get manpower? I went down mass assault and I got the human wave offensive, which you can see. Yeah, and it gives 5% recruitable. Maybe one day Paradox will nerf that. I really hope not, because it is a viable strategy to do alternatively. But it is a strange one to gain manpower through a doctrine, other than about getting it through like other means, put it that way. But the fact that you can do that and it is possible and it's a viable way of playing makes me very, very, very happy. And of course, playing in Africa is very different and unusual. So of course, it's a different way of playing. So I'm a massive supporter of that. Anything you can play the game in a different form, in a different way, to make it a different experience, I'm definitely for. And the Sultanate of Aussa is definitely one of those nations. And one of the issues you run into early is the Italians destroy you and dumpster you, and you're in a situation where you kind of defend from there on in. Now, this is where the problems align. You can only really trade with France, who borders you, and Ethiopia, but there's no resources from Ethiopia. And then if you're in a situation where you capture a port, which is usually this one, or you get Djibouti and get this one, which is easy to do because of Vichy France, you're in a situation where you need convoys, and then at that point you become kind of landlocked and blocked because you can't trade with anyone else. Everyone will send you land leases, which is awesome, by the way. I love it when the allies help you, but then you can't really trade with them because you've got no convoys. So having a way to have access to convoys as a part of your focus tree would actually be really cool. And I'm just checking the focuses now to see if it actually exists, because there might be a case that I just passed over it and glanced over it and never actually really realized. No, this one would give you some naval dockyards if you had a port or a coast. Let's just grab this piece of land here. Set owner, is it Aussa? No, I don't even know the codes. AFA, I would have never have guessed that. Set owner AFA. And then we have access to this focus now, which will give you one naval dockyard, which is really not enough to make enough convoys. You can get lend-leased in convoys from the allies, and that's kind of the way you do kind of rebuild your economy. But just understand that if you are in a situation where you're landlocked, you're in a more advantageous situation to trade with the world than if you have access to a port, which you lose the ability to trade with the world because you need convoys to get out of this port. So you can resume the game now. You've got this port. So as an example now, let's just say we were to import We haven't got enough convoys to actually do that, and we haven't got any civilian factories, so there you go. That's the situation. You are kind of restricted on how playstyle you've got to go for. You've got to go for the resources you need, which is manpower is the primary resource, and then next to it you need equipment, and at that point you can work on factories, which is 3 in a row. So it's more of a one-dimensional style, which is fun, and, you know, because it's one against. You don't have to focus on everything like you are playing the UK or Germany. It feels like when you're playing in the Horn of Africa, it is a completely different game. Other than convoys, the only other issue is when you get late game with Sultanate of Aussa, you have the ability to form the Horn of Africa. But the problem runs into sometimes is some pieces of land are hard to tear away from the allies. In my game, Jubaland was quite difficult to peel away because allies ended up taking that in a peace conference. And the UK, you're never in a situation where you can take this part of British Somaliland. It bugged out for me, though, because it was handed to Italy in the peace conference. And to this day, I still actually don't know how that had even happened. However, if you are able to grab all the coastline, you'll be at war with Italy anyway, so that's fine. So you can grab all that land. And then Vichy France will eventually become your foe, so you can take that piece of land, just leaving you with this one and then potentially a bug down here. It would just be nice from aesthetic purposes to finally end the game with the ability to unify the Horn of Africa, maybe with a situation where, I don't know, the decision gives you the option down here to say trade, offer guarantee to join allies in exchange for Djibouti. Is it Djibouti? No, it's French Somaliland. Sorry, I'm thinking of a different part of the world. And another option here too, can I have British Somaliland in exchange for joining the allies or something? I don't know, something that I can trade it with a decision that guarantees this land, so therefore I can contribute to the war, for instance. And it's just a nice way to work with the AI to eventually do form this Horn of Africa and go from there. Alternatively, the path we would go down is the rebellions phase, which you can do with Ethiopia, which causes this land to rise up. But those mechanics are just a little bit flaky, because what usually happens is they end up joining the faction that you're already in. So let's just an example here. I would basically cause this piece of land, Eritrea, to rise up against Italy. And you're in the Allies and you're fighting against the Italians. All of a sudden, Eritrea, independent, rises up, forms an independent country, immediately joins the Allies. Well, then at that point, what do I do? Because I don't have the ability to eat them anyway, you know? There are decisions as Ethiopia where you can integrate them if they're independent states and make them your vassals, which I don't think you have the ability to do that as a Sultanate of Aussa. So there are options there, which I think is really, really cool. Respect to Paradox for that. Let's go down the path now and just remind myself. So we push for the Highlands, which gives claims, which is great, because claims in peace conferences mean you can take land at a significant discount. And then you end up in this situation here, where if you have Afar, where's Afar? Afar? Let me go Afar. Well, Afar is the land I own. What's the reason why I can't proceed with this one? Controls the Ethiopian territory. Oh, you have to control all of Ethiopia, so let's just grab all of Ethiopia. And then you have the abilities for the crown of Nagast. Nagusa Nagast. Once again, demonetized. And this cores all of Ethiopia. And then this one is the one, the Horn of Africa one, which is the one I mentioned earlier is the issue here, because you need to have control of all these pieces of land. So if there was one further suggestion I would actually make, other than the convoy issue, would also be the situation where you have the ability to take land from the French, the British and the Italians peacefully in exchange for something towards the war effort, I suppose. I suppose it would either be aligning with the Axis, and you would join the Axis, and they would end up giving you this land, or you would align with the Allies and they would give you this land in exchange for joining the Allies. A kind of like Death or Dishonor kind of path, you know what I mean? Because at least at some point you'll be able to take this land and take it in a peace conference, then finally be able to form the Sultanate of Aussa. How do you actually... Decisions? Decisions, no checks. I'll go with finding all the console commands here, boys. And if you've done it correctly, you would have ownership of... No, not wrong one. Wrong one. Trust me, we're going to get there, boys. Boom. Boom. And boom. Which feels like a really... what I love about Paradox Hoi 4 is satisfying end goals. And forming the Horn of Africa is really satisfying as a fire, because it's quite difficult to get there. Well, you've actually got the opportunity to here to call this southern territories. Oh man, I don't think I even took advantage of it in my game with this, but this is so good because you have a further ability to push further in and expand even further by taking these said decisions, the Blue Nile and the Upper Nile. Blue Nile. And Upper Nile is this one. Blue Nile, Upper Nile. There you go, these two. So you have the ability to expand further out, basically. And I don't know. I guess not only when you form the Horn of Africa, the game isn't over, and you have the ability to get more decisions as well. I'll be honest with you. This playthrough was more thumbs up than thumbs down. But the two other issues, as I mentioned to you, is the exchange of land is an issue in peace conferences. Because eventually, if it turns out that this piece of land is still owned by France by the end of the game, well, that means you have to go to war against the entirety of the Allies, the massive block of nations. It's just you, little Djibouti, against the entirety of... I can call myself Djibouti. It's Sultanate of Aussa. It's little Sultanate of Aussa versus the entirety of the Allies, which isn't realistic, so it wouldn't be nice for a more satisfying end goal. And then a further take, if you want to push into the Allies, which feels worthwhile, you can core all the land around you, which once again gives you more manpower. It doesn't really give you any more factories because this land doesn't have factories. Does it have resources? It has... No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It has manpower, though, so that's something. Hey, so big thumbs up to Paradox. This is a really good playthrough. And if you want to check it out, the link will be in the description. I love you. I'll see you soon.